In an expensive restaurant, men spoke a foreign language, confident that no one understood them. But one phrase from a waitress destroyed their confidence and set in motion events that would cost them everything. Write down where you are watching this story from, because sometimes silence is only preparation for a blow. In the hushed luxury of the Starglue restaurant, where power was the main currency and money was only a whisper in the shadows of deals, a young waitress glided like a shadow among titans. She was invisible, an unnoticeable figure in their world of multi-billion-dollar contracts and cold cruelty. But on this evening, two men whose arrogance oozed from every word decided to use a foreign language as their secret weapon, mocking the quiet girl serving them aged wine. They thought she was a nobody. They thought their position made them invulnerable. They were wrong. They would soon learn that some secrets do not remain in the shadows, and the most devastating truths can be spoken in flawless German. The air at Starglow was thick with the scent of old money, new ambition, and the faint scent of truffles that hung over the tables. The restaurant was a masterpiece of carefully constructed luxury. Burgundy velvet sofas reflected the soft light of crystal chandeliers that shone like frozen constellations, and the dark wood walls absorbed any unnecessary sound. Conversations were conducted in whispers, and only the clink of crystal glasses and silverware dared to disturb the silence of this sanctuary of privilege. For guests, Starglow was a refuge from the chaos of New York, a fortress where they felt like gods surrounded by the mortals who served them. For the staff, it was a gilded cage where their own lives, dreams, and personalities were left outside the door along with their coats, briefcases, and hopes. Sophia Keller, a 27-year-old waitress, was a master of this silent dance. Her movements were precise, as if she were performing a bolete in the narrow aisles between the tables. Her back remained straight, her blonde hair was pulled back into a tight bun, and her face maintained an impassive mask of professional politeness. She could pour a 1982 Chatulafit without spilling a drop, describe the taste of oysters with lemon espuma or filet mignon with bordelaise sauce in 3 languages if required, and anticipate a guest's desire for more water. Before he himself realized it, her gray eyes, calm and attentive, never betrayed her thoughts, and her hands, deftly clearing the plates, moved with the confidence of a surgeon. To the customers of Starglow, Sophia was simply a waitress, pleasant, efficient, and completely unnoticeable part of the scenery. No one saw a shadow of pain in her eyes, no one noticed the way her fingers sometimes paused, as if remembering another life. No one knew that those hands, so deftly handling trays, had once held a diploma with honors from Heidelberg University, one of the most prestigious in Germany. No one could have guessed that her mind, now busy memorizing evening specials and orders, had once analyzed complex economic theories, analyzed financial statements, and modeled macroeconomic forecasts with such insight that her professors called her a child prodigy. Her work on the impact of speculative investing on small companies had been published in academic journals, and her essays on corporate ethics had provoked controversy in seminars. But that life, full of ambition and hope, now seemed like a dream that belonged to another Sophia, the one who had existed before her world had collapsed. Everything had changed 3 years ago, on the day her father, Dr. Henry Keller, a talented but overly trusting chemist, had called her in tears. His voice shook as he described how his company, Keller E-Solutions, built on a revolutionary air purification technology, was destroyed in a hostile takeover. Investors from the private equity firm Wolf Capital used predatory tactics, manipulated legal loopholes, and doctored the books to drive down the company's stock, creating an artificial crisis that reduced its value to nothing. They bought Keller E-Solutions for pennies, sold off patents that could have saved millions of lives, and left Henry with debts he couldn't pay and a broken heart. The blow was so severe that he suffered a stroke that left him partially paralyzed, unable to speak, and in need of constant care. Without a second thought, Sophia quit her doctorate in Germany, leaving behind her dreams of a career in economics, and returned to New York to become his caregiver. A mountain of medical bills, debts from corporate sabotage, and the need to pay for her father's care had forced her to abandon her ambitions. Starglow, with its rich clients and generous tips, was the only way she could provide her father with a decent living in a private clinic. Every night she locked her past in a small cabinet in the staff room, next to a tattered copy of Keynes's General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money, put on a starched black uniform, pulled her blonde hair into a tight bun, and became the ghost of Starglow. She had learned to hide her pain, her memories, her rage. But tonight the ghost was going to emerge. They walked in at 8 o'clock sharp, their entrance accompanied by an invisible wave of superiority that parted the air before them like a parting sea. In front walked William Grayson, a name that thundered in the world of corporate takeovers and untold wealth. He was in his 50s, with neatly coiffed silver hair and a face that seemed chiseled from marble, exuding a cool authority. His razor-sharp gray eyes assessed everything around him with icy precision, and the dark suit he had tailored in London was like armor that underscored his status. He moved with the glare of a predator, confident that the world was his. Behind him followed his assistant, Daniel Crow, a man in his 30s, lean and with a nervous energy that suggested he was eager to please. His blonde hair was slightly disheveled, and his blue eyes constantly scanned the room, as if assessing its worth and threat at the same time. His suit, though expensive, looked as if it was trying to match Grayson but could not match his aura. The maître d'hôtel, Jean-Pierre Leblanc, a man with impeccable manners and a slight French accent, seemed smaller in their presence. His usual charm was replaced by a slight nervousness, and his smile was forced. "Mr. Grayson, it is an honor," Jean-Pierre said, bowing slightly. His blonde hair shone under the color of the chandeliers. "Your table is ready, as always." "I hope," William murmured. His voice was low, commanding. He did not even deign to look at Janir, already striding to his seat. They were shown to a corner table, the most prestigious in Starglow, with a panoramic view of the twinkling lights of Manhattan, where skyscrapers shone like stars in the night sky. This was a table for the gods of this world. And today William Grayson was Zeus, and Daniel Crow was his faithful but anxious companion. Sophia approached with a carafe of water. Her face was a perfect mask of politeness. Her movements were smooth, like a dancer's. "Good evening, gentlemen," she said. Her voice was soft but clear, with just the right amount of professional warmth. "Would you like still or sparkling water?" William waved his hand casually, not looking up from his conversation with Daniil. His fingers tapped the table, as if marking the rhythm of his authority. Daniil answered without looking at her, his voice sharp. "Sparkling, 2 bottles of San Pellegrino, and make it quick." Sophia nodded. Her gray eyes flickered over their faces, but she remained impassive. She walked away, pouring the water with practiced precision. Her hands moved automatically, but her ears picked up their conversation as it was conducted in English. They were discussing the recent takeover of a startup, BL Sky T Tech, which William said they had streamlined. Corporate euphemism for firing half the staff and selling assets. "The board was too sentimental," William was saying. His lips curved into a cold smile, his gray eyes glittering. "All this talk about company culture and innovation. I told them, culture doesn't show up on the balance sheet. We sold their cloud division for a 50% gain in 3 weeks. End of story." Daniel laughed. His laugh was too loud, almost obsequious. His blue eyes glittered with admiration. "A masterstroke, William." Absolutely masterful. You're always one step ahead. Sophia placed the menus in front of them. Her movements were smooth, unnoticeable, as if she were part of the decor. My name is Sophia. I'll be your server tonight, she said. Her voice was smooth, professional. Our specials are risotto with porcini mushrooms and truffle oil, filet mignon with bordelaise sauce cooked tableside, and baked salmon with a citrus glaze. William finally looked at her. His gaze was cold, assessing, as if he were weighing her worth and finding her worthless. His lips twitched slightly, but he said nothing, merely nodded. Quote, "Bring us some wine," he snapped. His voice was as sharp as a whip. Quote, "Chateau Petrus, 1998, and don't keep us waiting." Sophia nodded. Her face remained impassive, but inside her heart was beating faster. Quote, "Of course, sir," she replied. Her voice was calm as a lake. As she walked away, William and Daniel switched to German. Their voices dropped but remained confident, as if they were sure that no one in the restaurant would understand what they were saying. They clearly believed that their language was a shield behind which they could say whatever they wanted. Quote, "She's like a machine," William said in perfect German. His voice was full of contempt. Quote, "Not a spark of intelligence, just a pretty face pouring wine." Daniel chuckled. His eyes twinkled as he replied in the same language. Quote, "Yes, but someone like her is perfect for this job. No questions, no thoughts, just following orders." Sophia, standing at the next table, pouring water for an elderly couple, froze for a split second. Her knowledge of German was impeccable. Years of study in Germany had made it a second mother tongue. Their words cut like a knife, piercing her pride, but she didn't show it. She returned to their table with a bottle of Chateau Petrus, pouring wine with the same precision as always. Her hands did not shake, although inside she was seething. But then she heard the words that made her heart clench. They mentioned Keller Eco Solutions and the name of her father, Henry Keller. Quote, "The old man was a fool," William said in German, sipping his wine. His voice was full of arrogance. His technology was brilliant, but he didn't know how to run a business. It was almost too easy to destroy his company. Daniel nodded. His smile was predatory. He had answered in the same language, and now he was in the hospital, and we sold his patents for millions. It was almost poetic, wasn't it? Sophia felt her blood boil, but her face remained expressionless. She stepped away. Her hands shook slightly as she placed the bottle on the tray. Memories swirled in her mind. Her father's tears, his shaky voice on the phone, the hospital room where she had spent months holding his hand while he fought for his life. These people sitting at her table were the ones who had destroyed his dream, his health, his life. And they were laughing about it, sipping $1,000 a bottle of wine, savoring their victory, and she walked back to the hill. Her breathing was uneven, her gray eyes were burning. Her colleague Anna Wilson, a 23-year-old waitress with short blonde hair and a cheerful disposition, noticed her state. Anna was new, but she had already become friends with Sophia. Her optimism and easygoing nature often help her survive long shifts. Quote, "Sophia, are you okay?" Anna asked. Her blue eyes were full of concern. She put down the tray of glasses. "You look like you're ready to strangle someone." "I'm fine," Sophia lied. Her voice was quiet but tense. "Just difficult guests, very difficult." Anna frowned. Her freckles stood out against her pale skin. "If anything, I can take your table. Those two look like they're ready to eat the entire staff." "No," Sophia answered. Her voice became firmer. Her gray eyes flashed. "This is mine. I can handle it." She returned to work, but her mind was far away. She remembered her father telling her about Wolf Capital, how they had cooked the books to crash his stock, how they had used his trust to destroy everything he had built. She knew William Grayson was one of the firm's principals, and Daniel Crow his right-hand man, the man who did the dirty work with a smile. And now they sat here, mocking her father, her life, everything they had taken from her. The evening went on, and Sophia served them with impeccable politeness. Her movements were practiced, her smile professional. She brought out a dish, risotto with truffle oil, filet mignon prepared with theatrical precision at the table, cleared the plates, refilled the wine, but every glance, every chuckle in German, pierced her like a needle. They continued to talk, unaware that she understood every word. Their voices were full of self-satisfaction. Quote, "We should do this with one more company," Daniel said in German. His voice was full of enthusiasm. A small biotech firm in Boston, Greenpulse Solutions. They have a new technology for capturing carbon dioxide. We can buy them for a couple of million and sell the patents to the Chinese for tens of millions. William nodded, his eyes shining. He replied in the same language. Good idea. Their CEO is an idealist. People like that are easy to manipulate. Let's spread a few rumors and the investors will panic. It will be like with Keller. Sophia felt her blood boil. Her heart was beating so loudly she was afraid they would hear it. They were planning to do the same thing to her father. Another company, another dream, another life they were going to destroy for profit. She couldn't let that happen. But what could she do? She was just a waitress, a shadow in their world, someone they didn't even notice. When she brought them dessert, raspberry and white chocolate tartlets decorated with thin gold leaves, William looked at her again. His gaze was full of arrogance. His lips curved into an indulgent smile. Quote, "You are doing well, girl," he said in German. His tone was patronizing, as if he were doing her a favor. But do not waste your time on dreams that are beyond your power. Remain where you are. Daniel laughed. His laugh was sharp, like the sound of breaking glass. His blue eyes glittered with malice. Sophia smiled. Her smile was cool but polite. Her gray eyes met William's. She leaned a little closer. Her voice was soft but firm, and she spoke in perfect German. "Mr. Grayson, I find it curious that you speak of dreams when your career has been built on destroying other people's." The room seemed silent. William and Daniel stared at her, their faces pale, their mouths hanging open in shock. William opened his mouth to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Daniel blinked. His eyes darted around, as if searching for a way out. Quote, "Do you speak German?" He managed in English. His voice was shaking, his hands clutching his napkin nervously. Quote, "Of course," Sophia said. Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. Quote, "And I heard every word you said, like how you destroyed Keller Ecotions, how you sold my father's patents for millions, leaving him in debt and with a broken life, how you laughed over that glass of wine." William swallowed. His face was ashen, his fingers clenching the edge of the table. Quote, "It's a misunderstanding," he began. His voice was unsure. His usual authority had evaporated. Quote, "There is no misunderstanding," Sophia interrupted. Her gray eyes were cold. Quote, "And I heard you were planning to do the same to Greenpulse Solutions in Boston. You think you can ruin lives and get away with it? But you couldn't. Not today." She turned and walked away. Her steps were steady, even though her hands were shaking. In the basement, she pulled out her phone and texted her friend Emmy Thompson, a journalist for the New York Chronicle. Emma was her classmate at Heidelberg, a woman with flaming blonde hair and a passion for exposing injustice. Sophia knew Emma wouldn't miss her chance. Quote, "I have a story," she wrote. Her fingers typed quickly. A recording of a conversation between two corporate sharks, bragging about destroying companies. One of them was William Grayson. She attached an audio file she had recorded on her phone while waiting on their table. Recording was not prohibited at Starglow as long as it did not interfere with work, and Sophia always kept her phone in her pocket in case she needed to quickly contact her father's caregiver. Today, it was her weapon. Emma responded within seconds. "Sophia, This is dynamite. I'll take care of it right now. Give me a couple of hours. Sophia exhaled. Her heart was still pounding. She went back to work. Her face was calm, but inside she felt something changing. She was no longer just a waitress, no longer a shadow. She was a woman who had decided to fight. Harass him. The next day, the New York Chronicle published an article under the headline, Corporate Predators Exposed. William Grayson and his plans to destroy another company. Emma used Sophia's recording, supplementing it with an in-depth investigation that exposed the schemes of Wolf Capital. She found documents proving their manipulation of Keller Eco Solutions and testimonies of other companies that had been harmed by their tactics. The article caused a stir. Wolf Capital's stock crashed, investors began to withdraw funds, and regulators announced an investigation. William Grayson was suspended. His name became synonymous with corporate greed. Daniel Crowe was fired the same day. His career in the financial world was over. Sophia didn't follow the news. She was too busy caring for her father, whose health was slowly improving. She worked at Starglow and began working with a small consulting firm, Bright Horizon, which helps startups defend themselves from corporate takeovers. Her knowledge of economics, her experience, and her family's pain became the foundation for her new mission, to protect those who, like her father, had fallen victim to greed. She spent her evenings analyzing financial statements, consulting with small companies, helping them strengthen their positions. Her father, despite his weakness, smiled when she told him about her work. Quote, "You do what I couldn't," he said one day. His voice was weak but full of pride. Quote, "You make them pay." A month later, Sophia received a letter from the CEO of Greg & Pole Solution, James Walker, a man in his teens with kind blue eyes and a slight streak in his blonde hair. He thanked her for the warning that had saved his company. Quote, "Ms. Keller," he wrote, "thanks to your recording, we were able to prepare and protect our patents. We strengthened our board of directors and attracted new investors. I would like to offer you a place on our advisory board. Your knowledge and courage are exactly what we need." Sophia smiled as she read the letter. Her fingers lingered on the screen. She wasn't ready to take this step yet, but she knew her future would never be the same. She was no longer a ghost, no longer a shadow sliding between tables. She was a woman who had found her voice and used it to change the world. One afternoon, an email from Daniel Crowe arrived in her inbox. She almost deleted it. Her finger hovered over the delete button, but curiosity won out. She wanted to understand what had happened to the man who had been part of the machine that had destroyed her family. "Ms. Keller, I know you have no reason to read this or respond. I'm not asking for forgiveness because I know I don't deserve it. All I ask is 5 minutes of your time. There are things I need to say in person, not as an excuse, but as an explanation. I'll be at the Morning Light tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If you're not there, I'll understand and won't bother you. Sincerely, Daniel Crowe." Her first instinct was to refuse. Why dredge up the past? Why give him a chance to justify himself? But then she realized that this wasn't about him, this was about her. She needed to close this chapter, to understand what happened to those who supported people like Grayson, who weren't titans but shadows of them. She needed to see what was left of a person when their world collapses. The next day, she walked into the Morning Light, a small cafe with wooden tables, warm lighting, and the smell of freshly brewed coffee. Daniel was sitting in the corner. His face was drawn, his blonde hair was disheveled, and his blue eyes were dull, surrounded by dark circles. His expensive suit had been replaced by a worn gray sweater, and the hands that had once clutched the folders of contracts now nervously fiddled with a paper napkin. He flinched at the sight of her and stood up awkwardly, nearly knocking over his chair. "Miss Keller," he said. His voice was hoarse, almost broken. "Thank you for coming. I didn't think you'd agree." "I have 5 minutes, Mr. Crowe," Sophia replied. Her tone was neutral. She remained standing. Her gray eyes studied him carefully. He nodded, gesturing to the chair. His movements were awkward. "Please sit." She sat. Her posture was straight, her hands folded on the table. Her face remained impassive. "I don't know where to begin," he began. His voice was shaking. His fingers continued to tear the napkin into tiny pieces. "I lost everything after that night. My job, my reputation, my fiancé. She left when it all fell apart. I deserved it. For months, I blamed everyone. Grayson, the journalists, you. But that was the coward's way." He fell silent. His eyes dropped to the table, as if he couldn't meet her gaze. "The truth is, I knew who Grayson was. I knew the deal with Skill R Eco Solutions was dirty. I saw how he enjoyed his cruelty, how he played people like chess pieces. And I admired it. I wanted to be like him. I told myself it was just business, that people like your father were just inevitable victims on the road to success." He finally looked up, and Sophia saw tears in them. His face was pale, almost ghostly. "I want to say that I'm sorry. Sorry for my role. About what happened to your father. I'm sorry for the things I said, the things I thought I didn't do. I was a hyena, feeding on the scraps of a monster's table. I should have told you this face to face." Sophia listened. Her face remained impassive, but inside she felt a strange mixture of emotions: anger, pity, fatigue. She expected excuses, attempts at manipulation, lies. But in front of her was a broken man, whose sincerity was almost tangible, whose weakness was laid bare. He was not a villain like Grayson. He was a man who had made a choice, a bad choice, and was now paying for it. "Why are you telling me this now?" she asked quietly. Her voice was even, but there was depth to it. "Because I have to start over," he replied. His eyes were wet, his voice trembling. "And I can't build anything on lies. I work as a loader in a warehouse in Brooklyn. It's an honest job, quiet. It gives me time to think, and I realized that the only person I was deceiving was myself. I thought I could be a part of this world without getting dirty, but I was wrong." Quote. Sophia was silent. Her gaze was attentive, but not judgmental. She could destroy him with a few cold words. She could get up and walk away, leaving him to his self-pity. But that was Grayson's way, the way of cruelty, the way of power that destroys. It was not her way. "Redemption is not forgiveness from those you have wronged, Mr. Crow," she said. Her voice softened, but remained hard as steel. "It is a duty to yourself. You do not fix the past by apologizing. You atone for it by what you do. Further, find a way to do something good, not necessarily something grand. Just be better than you were. That's the only apology that matters." She stood up. Her movements were smooth but determined. "I wish you peace, Mr. Crow," she said. Her gray eyes met his for a moment, a spark of compassion flickering in them. She walked out of the cafe, leaving him with her final gift, not forgiveness, but the path to his own salvation. She walked through the busy streets of Manhattan, her blonde hair flowing in the wind, her heart light, as if she had lifted an invisible burden. She knew her words might not change anything for Crow, but for her, they meant the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. That evening, Sophia placed an order at Starglow, not through the stage door where she had spent so many nights, but through the front doors, adorned with gilded ornamentation. Jean-Pierre Leblanc greeted her with a wide smile. His blue eyes were shining with genuine joy. His blonde hair was neatly coiffed, as always. Quote. "Sophia, it is an honor to see you again," he said. His voice was warm. His French accent gave his words a special softness. Quote, "You have returned as a guest, and rightly so." "My honor, Jean-Pierre," she said, using his name for the first time. A small smile touched her lips. "A table for one, please." He led her across the room, past the curious glances of new guests who whispered as they recognized her, the woman whose story was legendary within these walls. He seated her at a corner table. Her table, the same one where she had once served Grayson and Crow. Now she sat there as a guest, as an equal, looking out at the lights of Manhattan that shone like the promise of a new beginning. She ordered a simple but exquisite meal, baked salmon with a citrus glaze and a glass of porcini. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, not like a former waitress forever rushing between tables, but like a woman who knew her worth, who knew she had earned this moment. Her meal was a quiet celebration of her journey. It was a tribute to her father, whose dream lived in her struggle. Reclaiming the space that had once been the site of her humiliation, and toasting a future she could now choose for herself. When the bill arrived, she paid it, leaving a generous tip for the young waitress, a girl with bright blue eyes and blonde hair who reminded Sophia of herself in the past, full of hope but not yet knowing her own strength. A few months later, Sophia began working full-time as a consultant at Bright Harrison. Her knowledge of economics, her ability to spot vulnerabilities in financial strategies, and her passion for protecting small businesses made her indispensable. She helped startups build defenses against predators like wolf capital, taught them how to strengthen their positions, how to avoid pitfalls. Her father, whose health was slowly improving, began to smile more often. His eyes lit up with pride when she told him about her victories. "You make the world a better place, Sophia," he said one day. His voice was weak but full of warmth. "Are you doing what I couldn't?" She smiled, squeezing his hand. "We're doing this together, Dad." One evening, when Sophia returned home after a long day, she found a letter from Emma Thompson. Emma informed her that her investigation had won a national award for journalism excellence and thanked Sophia for her courage. "You gave me more than just a story," Emma wrote. "You gave me a chance to show that the truth can win. If you ever decide to write a book about your journey, I'll be the first in line for an autograph." Sophia laughed, her gray eyes glittering. She wasn't ready for the book yet, but the thought of it warmed her. She knew that her story was not only about Grayson's exposure, but also about her own transformation, about how she found the strength to rise from the shadows and become the architect of her own destiny. This story is a reminder that behind the uniform, behind the modest position, behind the silent smile, there is much more than meets the eye. Behind Sophia's mask there was experience, intelligence, pain, and untold stories. Her courage to speak the truth in the face of power not only exposed cruelty, but also revealed her own potential, reclaiming her father's legacy. It is a testament to the power of one voice, speaking with confidence, to change the world, or at least a small corner of it. If this story is about resilience, justice, and the power of the human spirit touched you, like and share it. Write in the comments if you believe that one person can change everything, and tell us what city you are from. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new stories that inspire and remind you, dignity is something we choose ourselves. They laughed, thinking that everything was under control, but the truth sounded louder than their voices and made them vulnerable to the whole world. Like and share this story, because sometimes one evening changes the fate of several people at once.